Oh, we never.
You doing it?
All right, we'll go ahead and start. Connie said she would be here.
Okay.
I called to remind her, so. Let's go ahead. You got the recording going?
I do.
Okay. I hear you're going to do the invocation for us.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Father God, I just pray tonight for the town of Kiowa and its leadership and for this council. Just ask us a blessing on all those who are present here tonight. And I pray for wisdom and good decision making and courage in the leadership. God, I just ask that your presence be felt here tonight and all those who are present. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Stand to say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There she is. Hey, we're gonna call this meeting to order at 7:03. Kim, would you do the roll call, please?
Oh, Mayor Howard,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hart, Trustee Schaefer,
Here.
Trustee Stahl.
Yeah.
Trustee Smith,
Here.
Trustee Wineland, have you made it online yet? There was a phone number there, now it's gone. Oh, no, it's not. I think she's still working.
Okay. Hey, do I have approval of the agenda? I have a motion,
Yeah, so.
okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Either Connie or Jonathan, they both motioned,
Connie.
and Trevor seconded. Any discussion on it?
I would ask that we amend the agenda to add a, conflict of interest discussion before executive session.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
okay.
Yeah, Lisa's on there.
We still good with the amendment on there? Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay,
Thank you. Lisa's on there.
new business. We're now gonna call our public hearings to order. We've got a couple things here to discuss. First one is building permit for 811 County Road 134. Are those folks here, Pam?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh, come on now.
yep, come on up and let us know what you guys are gonna be doing there and.
The big thing that we're gonna be trying to do is put up the, 3 different connexes and have canopy tarps over the top of them for mainly hay storage. And then we're working on doing a little bit of reorganization to everything and be a little bit more organized with the hay storage and then not have so many other vehicles parked there and mainly use it for stuff that's being used and not have the trucks parked there and all that kind of stuff. But stick with the same stuff. Selling of the goods of agriculture, mainly hay, railroad ties, and then drill stem pipe, a little bit of that, but stick with that. But the big thing that we're trying to change right now is that hay storage.
Okay. Did you guys all look at what you got on your emails? Do we have any other questions for them?
How's business?
A little slow right now, but get some hay put on the ground and get some more brought in there and get everybody restocked before the snow starts.
Yeah.
Just a little context to this, just, they did a use by special review on this building permit. It's not a standard request use. So they've gone through quite a thing with Travis trying to get this done.
Yeah. That's what I read.
Yeah, this building permit's exclusive to this project, and if they choose to do a permanent structure later down the road, that would be a different
Okay.
request.
And it did come from the planning board, it went through the planning
Yeah.
board. Letter.
Yeah, I read that someplace as well,
Yeah.
so, okay. Does anybody have any further questions from the board?
No.
Do we have any questions from the public? Yes,
Yes, hi, Mona Shantz, High Plains Foods here in Kiowa. Is there gonna be electricity or restrooms?
You're not at this moment.
Is that not required?
It's temporary structures. These connexes are temporary just for storage.
Have you seen the connexes they have down there, Mona, that are lined up 3 in a row, and there's a space between them about 40 feet between each one? What they're proposing to do is use those connexes as storage and then put a canopy over in the empty space between the 3, over it for shade, and store their ag materials.
Is this a business though?
It is a
Okay.
business, but it's not a walk-in business. It's a storage, kind of like Global.
Oh, so you couldn't go there to purchase hay?
You would go ahead, Mackenzie.
No,
I'm
you're
gonna
good.
let you
So
answer that.
yes, you would go there to purchase hay, but it's like a feed yard. Like, have you ever been to, or agriculture sales? Have you, what the example of it?
So you buy it online and then go pick it up?
Nope, so you'll come there, people will come there, customers will come in and they'll load them with hay or railroad ties or whatever there is, but there's no access to interior for anybody.
There's no storefront like 40
Yeah.
Mile.
But there's no restroom or electricity or water?
There's no need for any. It's just a storage facility, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
any other questions? Okay, seeing none. I'm gonna conclude the public hearing. And we need to entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Okay. Any other discussion from the board for it?
No.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We'll sign, do I have that here to sign off on?
I don't think there's anything. No, Sasha finalized it tomorrow.
Yep.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you tomorrow then.
I will talk to you tomorrow. Yep.
Yeah.
You're done.
Now then, we have resolution 8, series 2025, a resolution supporting the application to the Colorado Department of Local Affairs for the Main Street Candidate Program. Did you guys take a look at that in your packets?
So this application is your official application to become a full-fledged Main Street community. You're approving us to move forward with the application process. That probably won't happen until closer to September. But this is the first thing they need to get started in that process and get the paperwork rolling.
So, excuse me. So have they sorted out everything with the board for the Main Street project?
So the board is in place, officers are in place, strategic plan is finalized. They have had their first board meeting.
Good.
The next meeting will be with the 2 ladies that you guys have met from Main Street. To get a little bit more in-depth direction from them, to kind of get some insight to other Main Street communities, full-fledged Main Street communities and what they're doing moving forward, so.
Alright, and they meet on a regular basis like we meet the first Tuesday of the month.
No, they don't, they're their own standalone board.
Right, I was just wondering if they
Yeah,
haven't set.
they haven't done that yet. They've identified their work, they've been reluctant in setting a set schedule right now as to when they meet. They'll probably look at doing that a little closer after they meet with the Main Street ladies,
Oh, okay, yeah.
you know.
And do I understand correctly, they will have a page on our website?
They already do have a page on the
Okay.
website.
So when they do schedule meetings and such,
It
would
would
it
be
be
on there.
posted up there?
It would,
There you
just so
go.
you know, there's no statutory requirement
Right.
like the town
Right.
to make notices of their meetings.
That way, if Jonathan or one of us wanted to go, we
Yeah.
know when it is.
in all honesty, one of the reasons they want to meet with the ladies with Main Street is because there are quite a few Main Street communities that have opted to go nonprofit with that. So, they want to talk to them about what that looks like, and if that would be a good fit for this board in Kiowa. So we'll know more after they meet with them in August.
Cool. Just for some information, I went, if any of you that are on Facebook, I went on there and looked up, their Facebook page. And I don't know, a couple weekends ago, they had tons of little towns that they had done things in. And they had pictures and stories, and it's really a neat thing.
Yeah.
I was impressed, so. It's good to look at. So do we have any other questions on that? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve this.
Yeah, so moved.
Okay, second. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. That's fast then. Okay, consent items. Approval of the minutes.
Question,
Yes,
do we skip over franchise agreement with Court Electric?
The agenda was revised.
Oh, sorry,
I'm sorry about
I
that.
got the wrong.
Okay. I'm like, oh, no. We're gonna have that on next month's agenda. Here, Trevor. And they're actually gonna be here to talk to you guys about that.
Okay, perfect.
okay, Kim, I'm sure you were aware you got a copy from someone concerning a discrepancy in the minutes on June 10th.
Yes, a perceived discrepancy. Received two, one, advising that my statement was incorrect. However, I read it directly off of what I originally wrote prior to the meeting. I at no point mentioned that we had no budget to do it. And that can be confirmed by going back and watching the meeting video again. And the other, the conversation ended that way. So that's what we record is what it was ended as, the ultimate outcome. And we don't transcribe the minutes word for word. They're a summary of how the meeting went and the reports given. You can watch the entire meeting again on the video. But the person that made this assertion is not directly involved in either or, so
Okay,
I mean, that's the only answer I have for you.
did anybody else notice anything? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Finance report. Expenditures year to date. Kim, that's you.
It is. I don't necessarily have anything sticking out with your financials right now. They are what they are. I'm gonna show you a presentation here shortly to kind of give you some insight as to where you're at right now as compared to last year. And kind of where we're having the conversations we're having, the hard conversations we're having right now. Sometimes I work better off of pictures rather than just talking. So I felt maybe it might be advantageous.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on them?
About what you have in your packet prior
Yeah.
to the presentation. I will let you know, we are still waiting on about $145,000 from CDOT. It's a federal government
Yeah.
and it's a long process. So they've got everything they need. It's just waiting for them to cut the check and send them to us.
Gotcha. Okay. Some place. Okay, Kim has presentation for us correctly.
Bailey's made it on.
Oh, good.
No.
Welcome,
Hi,
Bailey.
Bailey.
I apologize, that took me a minute. I actually got on June's Zoom link and that got me on, but July's one didn't. I'm not sure why.
Oh, dang.
You're a creeper?
Oh, no, nope. There it is. All right. Mhm. So there's a few things happening. I'm gonna preface this by letting you know, I'm not an economist, okay? I'm your town administrator. I've been tasked with giving you the information you need to make the appropriate decisions you need to make as as trustees, as a town board. You watch the newspaper, you listen to the news. I had the pleasure of having Governor Polis join us at the conference last week. Some of this information is from that, some of this information is out there for everybody else to find, okay? Right now, what you're looking at statewide is a $7 million deficit. That's your best case scenario with no recession, stable economy in the federal budget that may not pass. The state has estimated the worst case scenario to be $2.6 billion, and that exceeds the reserve balance right now. The impact of the slowing economy on tax breaks has made the situation worse than anticipated. The governor is expected to call a special session in September to reconcile outcome and inputs of the big, beautiful bill. Pressure from the Senate to pass that by July 4th, which it did. And now that it's passed, it'll have to go to the committee to reconcile between the chambers. 2026, 27, and 28 are looking pretty bleak. Thus the structural deficit. Here's your growing delta with that information. The local example throughout Colorado. Your sales tax is flat, your property tax is being compressed, and your operating costs are increasing. You're talking about labor, fuel, IT, public safety, all those things that go into operating this town. Property tax compression, which is a long-term structural risk with direct municipal impacts. Larger cities are going to feel the pressure to begin providing or pick up a share of the safety net programs. And those are your targeted transfers of cash, vouchers, food, or other goods to poor or vulnerable households. Smaller rural municipalities like Kiowa can and will feel significant effects. Your property, we have three main property taxes that you utilize to run this town. That's property taxes, sales tax, and use tax. Those are what you have available to you. The property tax is calculated and how the property tax is calculated and how does that affect Iowa specifically. Your property tax is calculated based on two components, the assessed value of the property, which is determined by the local assessor as a percentage of the home's market value. And the tax rate usually expressed as what's known as the millage rate. That's your mill levy that we recertify every year. And which is the amount a homeowner pays per $1,000 of the property's assessed value. For example, an amount of $10 for every $1,000 of assessed value is expressed as 10 mills. Currently, ours is 13.107 for the town of Kiowa. It has not been increased for multiple years. It has to go to a ballot because you're a home rule municipality and they have not approved it for many, many years. So you make do with what you got. Rate limits are typically caps on how high the millage can go within a jurisdiction. Assessment limits restrain the growth of the property value of individual homes, commonly measured as year-over-year increases. Levy limits restrict the amount of growth of total collections from a locality's property tax. For local governments such as Kiowa, that develop their budgets around how much property tax revenue they will bring in each year, levy limits are in effect spending limits for you guys. Assessment and levy limits may be fixed percentage or tied to an economic indicator, such as inflation or growth in new construction. When you're looking at your challenges, you have three of them. We're going to start with financial constraints. You have a great reliance on property taxes, and that's very problematic, as fluctuations in the real estate market can directly impact local revenues. In May 2024, Polis signed several property tax and sales tax laws into place. These laws aim to reduce commercial and residential property tax assessments and income tax rates. Polis's bill can, on average, allow homeowners to save $500 on property taxes And that's great, but what does that mean for you as a board trying to run a municipality? I gave you a comparison of where you were at last year right now and where you're at today. Essentially, you are $26,277.18 less in property taxes alone, and approximately $44,000 total less in tax revenue than this time last year. If you're just focusing on the property tax, sales tax, use tax, and throw in your CTF funds, that's your part, it's your lotto. Lotto is going down as well. People aren't wanting to spend that money. They're feeling that hurt, which is carrying over to you guys. Kiowa's situation is worsened by rising operational cost and rising economy. The need for enhanced services is clashing with our budgets. Inadequate financial resources can stymie local initiatives and hinder economic development, perpetuating Kiowa's continued cycle of dependency on these external funding and support. Your public engagement. There's barriers to your socioeconomic disparities, educational gaps, and cultural differences further exacerbated by public engagement issues. That's always been an issue for you guys. These barriers can create an uneven playing field where only specific groups are heard, leaving marginalized voices silenced in discussions affecting their lives. New voices versus same old voices. In some rural areas, residents without long-time roots can find it difficult to plug into the community, especially if they work outside the community. On the flip side of that, longtime residents can become jaded in their participation, especially if they're typically the only people who participate, or if their expectations are not often met. Saying no does not equate to not being heard. The history of public participation in your area is key to understanding how to engage these different voices in your outreach efforts. Knowing the most active members and also the absent parties will help you tailor your efforts to reach the maximum number of people. Politics. Political will and can work against your efforts, especially if elected officials do not value community input. Even those officials who support your community engagement efforts may be looking to only include their constituents. And in some places that can mean that minority populations can be left out of the process if you're not intentional about your inclusion. Mistrust and expectations, another big one for Kiowa. The public can grow to mistrust local government and agencies because of past failed community engagement efforts or failed expectations. Sustainability. Sustainability has become a vital focus as Kiowa seeks to balance the indirect growth of the town. Various factors, including but not limited to project development, annexation, fiscal impact, and entrepreneurial ecosystem. With increased consumer spending, additional jobs, and overall economic development, implementing sustainable practices can foster community resilience and ensure long-term viability. Here's what your new normal is right now. Limited growth opportunities for revenue expansion used to mean tax increase now, such as franchise agreements with broadband providers. Mashup, new development, infill development, redevelopment, all lack of funds for incentive agreements, cash, but also sales and property tax. Rising costs are not baseline expectations. Residents expect high service levels regardless of your fiscal reality. Strategic discipline plus political resilience means you stay in the course. I'm sorry, but it's become a ruthless prioritization for you guys. What's your solution? So you have a comp plan that you revised back in 2024. It detailed retail offerings that are a critical aspect of serving residents and attracting visitors to stay and spend their money locally here in Kiowa. But there have been no new retail spaces in Kiowa since the 2000s. This indicates residents are likely traveling elsewhere to meet many of their service needs. Arguably, many of the more substantial retail offerings in the county are currently in Elizabeth, right down the road. Elbert County's 575,000 square feet of retail inventory has limited availability, 1.4% vacancy rate right now, and increasing lease rates, $22 per square foot. The report suggests this momentum could be mimicked in Kiowa over time. Currently, there is one 2,091 square foot potential office space structure being directly affected by this moratorium in the town center. Out of the 10 identified retail properties totaling 42,000 square feet identified in Kiowa by the updated comp plan from 2024. The future land use plan contained in your comp plan update serves as a basis for development and land use decisions within the town, as well as the foundation for zoning and subdivision regulations. When discussing the future growth of Kiowa, there are two prevailing concerns that keep coming back up. The importance of maintaining a small town feel and recognizing development will occur, but must remain similar to existing neighborhoods and cover infrastructure needs. Everybody keeps saying that. Recommendations made by the public at the community meetings, though, are the area east of town should be mixed use so as to allow for commercial and retail services along 86, such as a truck stop and residential to the north. Mixed use should be included along County Road 45 to provide commercial opportunities to nearby neighborhoods, as well as multifamily residential opportunities reflective of existing multifamily to the north. These are recommendations from the public that attended the community meetings for the comp plan revisions. When asked what they want to see, these boards were put up at the community meetings, and predominantly based on the survey that went out and those community meetings, the three areas of commercial the community suggested they want to see more of: small storefronts, lodging, and food businesses. Large retail centers and offices had no interest. Is exampled by this board, done by your community members. Your Main Street Board finalized their strategic planning. Their mission statement moving forward is to enhance the community and business vitality while preserving Kiowa's small town heritage. There are three identified strategic priorities: enhance the aesthetics of the Kiowa Main Street District, build a business retention and attraction program for the Kiowa Main Street District, promote Kiowa as a destination. That will help you mimic what's going on down the road. Kiowa, it's attainable in Kiowa if you have a want to see it. Create an incentive for homeowners along town center. The mixed use classification allows for combining residential and commercial uses either vertically or horizontally. This can include standalone residential or commercial retail properties, as well as 1 to 4 story buildings with retail or office space on the ground floor and residential units above. Mixed use developments are typically located along arterial thoroughfares, which helps revitalize main streets, increase walkability, and promote local businesses. Suggested unit types include mid-rise apartments or condos, general retail stores, restaurants, office spaces, hotel or motel accommodations, and public facilities. Right now, this is predominantly office spaces. This information is verbatim out of the comp plan. I didn't pull this out of the air. Budget for sustainability and succession. In 3 to 5 years, you guys may not be here. I may not be here. We don't know what this looks like. You're gonna have to start planning now for what somebody else is gonna have to pick up and move forward with once you're gone. Enterprise activities are operated as self-sufficient operations, not relying on taxing powers. Activities like that are water, sewer, gas, electric, etc., none of which Kiowa has. Balancing the budget while meeting community needs requires innovative solutions and strategic planning. There are ways to do this. You can prioritize fiscal responsibility and explore alternative funding mechanisms, including public-private partnerships, which are IGAs with utility and broadband, and grants. We're utilizing both of those right now. Plan for long-term sustainability and succession planning. Develop multi-year financial plans that account for anticipated expenses. Creating programs that advocate for community self-reliance and local empowerment, such as Main Street, that assists the town in implementing a revitalization program. Create more retail offerings, important aspect in serving residents and attracting visitors to stay and spend their money here. Seek an incremental increase in sales and use tax on special and general elections. What I'm gonna say about that is, I said this last year too, it's great that we have a school that is being given the offer to build another one. It's amazing. It's amazing to give them a second chance. But you have an entire municipality that is looking for a multitude of services that you don't have the money to fund right now. And every time we try to seek an increase in the revenue to affect those changes for them, affect those services for them, it fails miserably, or it's elected to put that aside and support the schools initiative. We should know, we shouldn't feel like we're competing against the school. We support the school and everything they do, but as a board for the community, you're having to make hard decisions for the entire town, not just for the school. A lot of the kids that go to that school don't live in this community. And I'm not saying throw the school aside in any form or fashion. We support them to the fullest of our extent. But we have to find a way to offset this money that we're losing. This is just the beginning. You're looking at 3 to 5 years of this. What is that gonna look like in 3 to 5 years? You already can't fill potholes and resurface the neighborhood's roads. We're only able to do what we're doing right now because of the grants we found and the creative funding we've been able to do. Nothing directly for the residents off this main thoroughfare. You need to engage with your community, foster transparent, inclusive budgeting processes by actively engaging the residents in decision-making. Seek input from them through public forums, surveys, and town hall meetings to understand their priorities and their concerns, just like we did with the comp plan. That's where we are. That's our reality. There are hard decisions you have to make, just like this moratorium. It's not for me to make. I just give you the information for you to make the best decision you can.
I'd like to add on to that, maybe in a little simpler English for everybody. Kim and I discussed this back at the beginning of the year. We knew that the governor was gonna do something to try and reduce property taxes. Well, in my opinion, it's not a reduction in your property taxes. It's almost a subsidy. You're only gonna have to pay X amount of dollars. Well, the shortfall of that, just like Kim said, to make up that shortfall, they're taking money that's revenue coming to towns and cities. Denver might not hurt as bad, Aurora might not hurt as bad, Kiowa, it hurts. And somewhere, and Kim, you can correct me if you know better, somewhere I read that it's like a 3% impact. Doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're looking at the money we've got, that 3% is quite a bit.
I mean, we've historically skated by with doing something with nothing. You're about to enter into an area where you have really nothing, right? And you can't effectively cut any more staff. I mean, you have 2.5, and 2 of them are required under your charter.
Right.
You can't cut any road repairs because you're not even doing them right now. You don't have the money to do them. You're not even providing the basic services that you should be under the, the money you are getting. Because it's not enough in today's day and time. Sheriff deals with it all the time, every year. And we can only do so much. But the want for them and demand for them is not gonna go away,
Right.
so.
Thank you, Kim.
Welcome.
You guys have any questions for her on that?
Well, your presentation there at the end, you reminded us that we need to engage the people, with, town hall meetings and it's like, well, how do we do that? How do we
I think
get more people's input?
well, the last time we've had the community meetings, we delivered door-to-door invitations to them. I think it's highly important to include the community in these budget discussions, so they understand the full picture of what you're tackling, what you're fighting against.
All right, come talk about budget. I mean,
Nobody wants to talk about budget.
That's what I'm
It's a
saying.
boring subject, but it puts it in perspective when
how do we get
The-
the information to them?
the message that I hear all the time is, you get my property taxes. What are you doing with it? You need to make do with what you get. Don't increase my property taxes, don't increase the sales tax, don't increase the use tax. In fact, I've heard somebody say, don't increase the use tax. Nobody's gonna wanna come here and build because they don't wanna pay the use tax. I don't think that's ever been a question that somebody asked themselves before they say, I wanna come build. I want to build a house in Kiowa. They don't say, I don't know, use tax is gonna be a breaking factor, whether I want to do that or not. And if they go to our retail stores and they spend a 1% increase, we only have a 1% sales tax in Kiowa.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
Right.
I go to this conference last week and you've got lots of small municipalities, very parallel in all variables to us, and they have up to 4% of sales tax.
Yes.
But that's what, people don't want to spend more money.
And every time we try and put that on the ballot, nobody,
No. The lodging tax you previously put on here, Joey was doing a boutique hotel. And so in preparation for that going through and Joey opening up a small boutique hotel, we tried to put a lodging tax in place. It's a small lodging tax, 1.5%. That's only paid by the people that stay there. I guarantee you, people aren't looking going, I'm not gonna pay that 1.5% lodging tax. So I'm not gonna stay there because I don't want to pay that. That's not how it works. And it doesn't keep people from coming to Kiowa. So you've got to find creative, innovative ways to bring them here. It's my opinion. I know you've heard a lot of things to the contrary. Kiowa doesn't have an appetite for this. It's Kiowa, we don't do that here. If you start limiting your vision, you're not gonna be any different than where you're at now.
And we'll go back to when we decided as a board to not ask for an increase in our sales tax. So we could support the school's initiative,
Right,
because we thought maybe that would make it easier for the voters to approve that.
and
To help the school, and they wound up voting it down anyway.
right.
And then I remember Mona had said in a couple meetings ago, well, why don't you just increase the sales tax? Well,
I know.
there, when we go to put it on the ballot, there's that legitimate fear that we're going to be shot down with that anyway. It's only 1% if we can put it on the ballot again and see if we can do that.
Yeah,
It's
Good.
1.5, not 1%. It is 1.5.
it's 1% use tax, 1.5 sales tax, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mona.
And when you were on
It's
the
weird.
tax.
Yeah, we're very minimal, very, very minimal. And you know, you guys, some of you are aware of this, some of you may not be. Last year, you know, not to throw, for the current commissioners weren't there, but they kind of threw us under the bus. A lot of us small municipalities, fire districts, municipalities, those that rely on these mill levies. They, instead of writing a letter to us and inviting us all to a meeting to discuss providing some relief to the residents in Elbert County by lowering our mill levies, they announced in the media without telling any of us, we're all gonna have a meeting to discuss lowering them. That's kind of an underhanded way of throwing us all under the bus. You know, you've got some of these fire districts, they only, rely on those mill levies. Rattlesnake only gets $40,000 a year to run an entire fire district. And you've got some commissioners sitting over there guilting them into not lowering that to relieve some of the citizens in Elbert County. So Elbert County is one of the biggest draws on those mill levies. We get very, very small percentages to do very little for you guys with.
Yeah, and you go shop in Elizabeth up the street. Have you ever looked at your Walmart receipt?
Yeah.
There's this fee and that fee and
And
this
that's
tax
county.
and that tax.
That's counting.
Yeah,
yeah, because they're outside of those.
They're outside
Right,
of Elizabeth.
yes.
And, you know, I'll tell you, the school district, the people voting on that and getting the benefit of that, they're not just here in Kiowa. So you're putting aside the needs of a whole municipality for a ballot initiative that is much more far reaching than you have the capability of going. Just some things to think about, you know. It doesn't all boil down to this, but this is a start to trying to fix some of the things that have needed to be fixed for a long time. You have very limited options to you on how to do that. Because of being Kiowa and because of the size of municipality you are. And being a home rule municipality. Ruth, I'm sorry.
It's all right. I just want to remind everyone, if they're interested in looking at this again, you know, we have deadlines to meet to get it on the ballot. And the sooner we start talking about it, whether we do it or not, makes it easier to meet those deadlines.
I have to let the county know by July 25th, I believe, if we are going to be part of the ballot this fall.
So we have a couple weeks, and I have to tell you, Mona asking that question that day was monumental, because we've never had anybody ask, why don't you ask for an increase? We have people yelling, you don't need an increase, why are you asking for one?
Why did you?
And it's people like Mona who ask those questions that needs to be part of those discussions about budget,
Right.
so that she understands what you're facing. And-
I just wanna say, being a business person and, you know, an awful lot of my business at High Plains Foods are people not from Kiowa.
Yes.
Not from Elbert County. They are just people from out of state and everywhere else.
Right.
And they would not even complain one bit about raising our tax. They would just pay it. So I think it would be really beneficial to give that another shot. These out-of-staters and people traveling all over, just traveling through Kiowa, would never even know what our tax was. They would just pay it.
Mm.
They really, I feel, would have no balking at a little more sales tax. They don't care.
I'm sure they wouldn't, but getting our people to say yes.
Yeah.
To increase that, a
Yeah.
little
To
tiny
vote on
bit of an increase.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's been our blockage the last few years.
And we can put it on the ballot, but they can't campaign to that. There's
Yeah.
restrictions on that board
Right.
campaigning to it, so we can put it on the ballot. But there has to be a voice in the community that, you know, champions for it. In order for the wording, we could have town hall meetings to give information about why. Yes, but there has to be some sort of involvement from the community, you know, to move it forward.
And that was the point to my question is, how do we get people wanting to?
That's why it's imperative that you have good public engagement with your community. There has to be some sort of coming together. You can't make all the decisions sitting here, because then they're all gonna feel left out. They're gonna feel like you're doing things underhandedly with no transparency. You know,
That's why the last couple of years I have stated since I've been on the board, that it's really sad to see the room partially empty unless there's somebody behind them saying, well, go yell at them, you know?
right,
So, and that's unfortunately the only time we really get people in here is when they're all in
Right.
uproar. I haven't seen hardly anybody in here with good, positive information, ideas, or anything like that, unless we have those public forums. Then it seems like it's always the same people showing up. And we can't get the rest of the residents on board and say, you know, come look. You
Right.
know, I can only say so much in my chair. Come look, see what we're doing, you know? And somebody asked, well, what's going on in Kiowa these days? Well, we're putting in new ADA compliant sidewalks, we're putting in gutters and drainage, and we're putting in a new highway. Yeah, it's all
New
gonna be done, a
bridge.
new bridge.
New
And
new
and the
parks.
parks, yeah, exactly, see? And somebody said, well, why didn't they do that before? And I said, well, we had them there, but somebody destroyed them.
Yeah, the bathrooms.
Mhm.
How will you keep them from destroying new ones?
We're going to, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're looking at having, like they have in the forests where they're, like a metal toilet?
They are metal. The
And
last bathrooms had porcelain
Right,
sinks
And they
and
got busted
toilets,
up.
and they were continuously destroyed with kids and baseball bats. So, these will be a little bit more durable. We are in the process of putting up security cameras, at least in the northern part, because we have continuous vandalism problems over there still. So. Different things, that haven't been done in the past. You have a high turnover here, in administration and, staff. It's everywhere. It's hard being in this position. I'm not from this community. And I feel like that's an advantage to you guys. Because I have no skin in this game. I don't go home to my house and say, I'm gonna do this in Kiowa because it benefits me in any way. It doesn't benefit me. You know what benefits me? Is having a community and a board that works well together for one common goal. And it's all for you. So I have no hidden agendas at all. My job, when I was hired here, was to provide the information for this board that helps them make the best decisions they can. And to try to keep them out of court and from being sued. That's what I do. There's no personal agenda. I have no personal issues with one person in this town. So it seems to be a misconception with a lot of people. I will be honest with you. Myself and this board have been called a lot of names. There's been some threats made against us for just this subject. Terrible threats. That's why the sheriff's sitting here tonight. And these people don't live in this town that are making these threats. They're just riled up. I've been called names. I've worked in law enforcement for 20 years. I haven't been called some of the names I've been called in the last 3 weeks. Even working in law enforcement. That's to say a lot. So there's got to be some coming together of this community and this staff and this board. You guys have your needs. We want to fulfill those needs, but it's not going to get done just on this side of the table, and it's not going to get done with just screaming on that side of that podium. There's got to be some teamwork here.
And I will add to it. There's not a single person sitting at this table that has a personal agenda or anything else. They each receive $100 a month to sit here. And sometimes it's 3 or 4 times a month. I'm fortunate I get $200. Well, I'll tell you, the last 3 weeks, if that were my regular job, I would have earned a ton of money. Wouldn't have to work for the next month. And we've got, it gets, I'll be quite honest, it gets very difficult for me sometimes when we've got people upset about things and we want to try and make things better. That's our goal. We're not trying to hurt anybody's business or anything else. But when it gets to the point that you don't even want to go to a restaurant, Miss Connie, because you walk in that restaurant and they start immediately talking to you. You don't get to eat your dinner. You get dirty looks from people. I moved to Kiowa 9 years ago. I love this little town. I want to be able to go out to the businesses, and I don't want to be looked at like I'm a 2-headed monster. And that's what's been happening to a lot of us. I've spoken to each one of these board members here, things that have gone on, and it's been a very trying time when we all could have just maybe sat down and talked about things instead of things getting way out of hand. So.
Let me preface, you told them you guys make $100 a month and $200 a month. That was a voted on decision that's in the charter.
Yes. I'm sorry.
We had to reinstitute that because it was put aside. They asked for it to be taken aside. They put it aside by resolution before they realized they statutorily can't do that. It has, because you're a home rule municipality, you have to vote for them not to get that anymore. So they don't want it. They'd rather it go back into the budget, but the law says they have to have it until it goes to ballot and you guys say otherwise.
Yeah.
So.
I just want to piggyback on what Terry said really quick about, people coming up to us and talking about us. And I know that these are really trying times for everybody right now, but being in, working in the community as well, I think it's really important for the board to listen to everybody, because we've got opinions going on for sure. And as long as we can take those opinions and bring them back to our board in a professional manner, I think that that's really important.
Okay, let's get on to staff reports. I don't have anything other than what I just got through saying. Any board members have anything they want to discuss?
Well, one of the things that presentation that you gave us, that's very sobering, solid information. I don't know how that would work, but would there be any way that could be mailed to everybody here so they could have a hard copy, everybody in town, I mean, not here, but in town?
I don't know if it could be mailed, because we don't really have any dedicated
Like-
mailing list, but we could definitely put it on the website.
Well,
and
if it's in the packet, no. Is it in the packet?
We could put it in a packet. We can attach it as another.
Okay, because we
Document
just,
to the meeting.
it's not on here per se, but,
It is.
the Civic Plus thing?
Yeah.
Okay, then never mind, when we get to that.
It's because it's my report.
Yeah, we can add it, but Kim can talk about Civic Plus and how we have now, we have finally onboarded it, on the homepage. And so people will be able to access.
But I would like to say that is not everybody jumps on the computer.
Oh, and I agree.
Yeah.
I'm just saying for more transparency though, now
Yeah.
our agendas and packets will be out there for
Mhm.
everyone if they want, if they can.
Yeah,
Go
that's
look.
awesome. I mean, I literally would walk around and put that in people's mailboxes. I don't want to do that. I mean, seriously, I think that everybody who lives in the town of Iowa should see that presentation that you gave us. I mean, that's so well done and succinct, and here you go, those are the deals. I really feel that that could help some of the people here kind of get their feet on the ground and go, oh, we didn't realize that's what's going on. And, I agree, I see the stubbornness, not wanting to vote for any increases. I was shocked that the school thing didn't pass, that was surprising.
It was very close this time though.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I'm asking, I didn't know if that was sensitive information.
No, it's not sensitive. It's just figuring out a good way to disseminate it, I think.
Mhm.
We can work on it.
Yeah, I mean, I would gladly have that on my counter at 40 Mile, but
It's gonna go, I'm sure. all the
absolutely,
businesses.
just here, take this,
Yeah.
you live in Kiowa, read this, if you don't live in Kiowa, read this, yeah, cause we get everybody. We get everybody through there,
Yeah.
so I know that we're not supposed to discuss things here, with people, and sometimes it's really hard not to say, well, cause I've been, behind the computer at 40 Mile. Bombarded with questions about this moratorium, and I don't know what I can say and what I can't, I say, there's a lot of reasons for it, it's kind of beyond my level. And I've referred them to the town website and all that kind of stuff. But I've been asked a lot, what is the deal with this, and I don't know how much I can say or can't say, because I probably talk to 100 people a day.
Yeah.
So I personally would like some guidelines as to what I can say, what I can't say.
Yeah.
And I would love it if I could get a stack of those, or even just a hard copy, we'll print them. And if it's okay, I think it would
absolutely okay.
benefit people to have that.
Yeah.
To read and reread and,
And that's part of the reason we're having the executive session tonight,
cool.
so we can figure out what we can say and can't say. Good. Anybody else?
Ditto.
Okay, for my report, it's very limited. As Sasha was alluded to, your Civic Plus agenda and meeting software went live this month. Of course, nothing new goes off without a hitch. We had some issues publishing the first meetings in July. We got that corrected today, but they didn't get published on the website last night, which is fine because your designated posting place is always the front board. But your next meeting, they will go to your emails and they will be published directly to the website. Now, if you go to the homepage, there is a ribbon across it and one of them says agendas and minutes. It's a one click. It goes to all of the meetings, all the boards, all the committees that have agendas posted, minutes posted, to include the water authority. And we, in the process of fixing the issue today, we learned that there's a board portal that you can log into. So with your handy dandy iPads, you can pull up your agendas, and as you work through the packet, there's a section to take your notes and highlight information on your iPad just for your viewing, and it's not shared with everybody, but that's an option to you. So there's that will be operational and pushed out the accurate way with the next meeting. Code enforcement, July report is due, this month, but we got it at the last minute. It wasn't able to make it into the packet, so you'll see that in, August packet. And, as far as public works, I was talking to Terry earlier, I've got to throw kudos out there for Mendez, real quick. We had a house that sits behind the county buildings, have some very large, beautiful, mature trees back there. And for whatever reason, two of the very large branches off those very large trees came off and completely took over the roadway and completely covered it and blocked it. Mendez saw that it happened. He went over there and started assimilating, family and friends. And here they come with their chainsaws and their trucks and managed to get it all cut up and out of the roadway without her having to spend an enormous amount of money hiring somebody to come do it and with limited interruption to the roadway. So it was very good what he did for our community member. She was very thankful.
When was this?
This was last Thursday, I
Yeah,
believe, yeah.
yeah,
So
it was crazy.
anyway, that's all I have, as far as that.
Hey. We've added on the, conflict of interest discussion.
Ruth, do you want to run them through that?
Yeah.
You're muted.
Thank you. I just want to add one thing before I forget that Sasha mentioned that maybe the board wants to pass a motion to at least let the county know that we're considering putting something on the ballot. You could do that now or later, or and we can.
Well, I did have a suggestion by Trevor.
I beg your pardon?
Trevor did make a suggestion shortly ago that we put back on the ballot to rescind the board pay officially in the right process. So that's a ballot initiative that needs to go on there because it went on there by ballot and it needs to come off by ballot as we determined. So Trevor has made the suggestion that we put that on a ballot. But I believe Ruth is talking about.
Making a motion so that we can have Sasha contact the county.
Yeah, but you need to have, you know, what your ballot initiatives are. You're looking at an increase in sales tax, use tax.
Lodging.
What lodging?
I make the motion that we need to communicate it with Elbert County. To add back on the ballot or 1.5% sales tax. Our lodging tax, same as what we've had last year,
I think it was one.
and
think it
to
was
extend
We're
the
not,
stipend for the board.
we're not married to the language yet.
No, we have to correct the link.
So I'm just saying pass the motion so that Sasha's has some direction to notify the county. And then we can put it on the agendas moving forward, so we stay on track with our deadlines. Because that's something, you know, I believe if we're gonna do it over again, we would have been a little bit more ahead of it. And tried to work with the public about why we were doing it.
Second Trevor's motion.
Is there any other discussion?
A question, I mean,
Yes.
before we talked about, something that needs to happen, I thought it was that it needed to go on the ballot. For business owners in the town of Kiowa to be able to serve on the ballot. Is that something that could be introduced as a ballot initiative?
It's not for my to say. It's for the board to make the decision if they want to do that or not. Yeah. But the only way to revise the charter is by ballot initiative.
So I would need to maybe request that of the board.
Yeah.
I do so request. Okay.
All right, do we have any further discussion on this motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
The lodging tax, I think in other municipalities, it's a lodging fee.
Is there a difference between fees and taxes?
No.
Not
I have to tell you something, I was, a few years ago, I was, down at the Capitol. And I don't even remember the legislator's name, but this always stuck with me. They were talking about fees that were assessed to this and fees assessed to that. And, somebody said, well, it's not a tax, it's a fee. And his comment was, I don't care what you wanna call it, if it's coming out of my pocket going to the government, it's a tax.
Well, I thought at one time there was a difference.
Well, yes and no, because if you look at some municipalities, I will even say the state government, if they put it in as a fee, then the voters don't have to vote on it.
Right.
I don't know if that's something, Ruth, is that something we could do? Calling it a fee rather than a tax?
I think it would be more appropriate to go to the voters.
Oh, I
Yeah,
do
I
too,
agree, but I mean.
but I would be interesting to
If
see,
there's like a flat rate.
right,
That's kind of where that fee would do
yeah,
versus the tax.
yeah,
Um,
but yeah, there is a difference.
it's kind of a. Or in public, so it's kind of a avian fecal material type move to do it that way, but we can move on.
Okay. All right, Ruth, did you want to go into conflict of interest, please?
Yes, the purpose of having this on our agenda monthly is to talk about any conflicts of interest that any board member may have, or any discussions that they feel that they need to disclose that would compromise either their decision-making, or that they may have spoken out of school regarding pending matters before the town.
No.
No. I myself have some questions real quickly, Ruth, as it relates to the executive session. And we gave notice on very two distinct topics. My questions on the notice and the validity of holding the executive session as it relates to personnel matters. Under Colorado Revised Statutes, it dictates personnel matters except if the employee who is the subject of the session has requested an open meeting. Or if the personnel matter involves more than one employee, all of the employees have requested an open meeting. Under the charter 3.12E, it states simply for personnel matters. I guess my question is, the state allows for an employee to request the matter to be discussed in public meeting rather than an executive session. But the charter does not provide the same language. Does the Colorado state control, or does the charter? What is the basis for the position that you're taking on this? Is it case law? And if the charter supersedes CRS, does that mean that the matter can only be discussed in closed session? Is there conflict that supersedes direction imposed under section 3.12 of the charter? Further, not knowing who the personnel matter is referring to, administrator, clerk, or both, how would any of the personnel know what their options are under CRS or even the charter? The clerk is not an employee of the board, and a non-board employee subject to an executive session.
So you asked a lot of questions, but essentially, in the absence of what our charter provides, the personnel matter is not specifically enumerated. And with regard to the personnel matters, it's designed to be more of a general issue with personnel and not specific. And
So it relates to staff?
it relates to
That's-
staff.
Those questions. Is it
Yes,
relating to?
yes, it relates to staff.
Okay, so the clerk is being a non-board employee is subject to an executive session.
Yeah, anybody that is a member of the town that's employed by the town is considered personnel.
Okay, so rules in section 3.12 of the town charter and CRS noticed on this agenda seem to be in direct conflict with each other as it relates to whether personnel in question can or cannot be heard in an open meeting. How do you reconcile the conflict of the two provisions in which is controlling authority? If the charter superseding CRS is a conflict, is this a material conflict?
No, it's not a material conflict.
Okay. That's all I
Okay,
needed to know. Thank you.
at this time, I move that we go into executive session for a conference with the city attorney, town attorney, for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions under CRS 24-6-402 4B, conference with the attorney to receive legal advice on specific legal questions regarding zoning restrictions and licensing, and CRS 24-6-402 4F1, purpose of discussing personnel matters.
I'll make a motion to do that.
And I'll second that.
All in favor? Or any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay. At this time, folks, we're going to go into executive session.
We ready?
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're gonna start the special work session with public comment. Sasha said the only one that had signed up at this point was Mona.
Folks forgot to sign up, so can we speak anyway?
Yeah. When Sasha gets back, I'll have you sign that.
Hi, folks.
Hi, Mona.
Hi, do I need to wait or go ahead now?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
You're okay.
My name's Mona Shantz. I own High Plains Food Store now for 40 years. To the board members and the mayor, I ask you, why do you want to punish the business owners who work every day to make this town grow and prosper? And Debbie and Nikki Ullum have built this incredible adventure park and campground and spent numerous hours and dollars to display a clean and safe place for families to enjoy here in Kiowa. We need more dedicated people like them in our community to bring in more revenue. Instead, you're running investors out of the town. The expense for owning a business include electricity, trash, retail sales tax, gas, water, sewer, property tax, business, to name a few. As a proud property owner and business owner, I ask you, Mrs. Mayor and town, or Miss Mayor, town board members, to reconsider this moratorium that is hurting us as business in this town. My customers are appalled at your selfish decisions to limit us from renting our offices. The amount I have paid for the 2024 retail sales tax in 1 year was only $1,400 for the year in sales tax revenue to the town of Kiowa. All your attorney fees and other expenses you are spending on this moratorium issue is costing the town more than it's worth in the long run. And another issue is that I don't understand about the cars in town that are obviously not going anywhere in the neighborhood, that are backed in to the person's yard. Does anyone check to see if they have a current registration? Because I'm pretty sure they don't. And most of the residents in this town don't really care about the school, and they've left their kids, and they've left and taken their kids out of the Kiowa school due to the horrible education of the Kiowa school. I have a lot more to say, but I know it's late, and I would like to ask the board and let you know that I would like to run for the board, the town board, in the vacant spot.
Okay.
Okay,
Mona, once you see Sasha tomorrow, she can give you an application. to the
thank
board.
you. I will do that. Thank you.
Sasha, there's a couple other people that said they wanted to speak, I know.
Yeah, I have Debbie online, Annette. Joey, did you say?
I would love to, but you go first. Cause I'm pretty sure that you have way more cool things to say than me.
No, I don't. I just wrote them all down so I don't derail myself. So I apologize for reading, but that's where we're at this age. This is related to the ordinance, obviously. We stated several purposes as a town board. You stated several purposes for, one was opening communications with the county. The other was to support the Main Street program, and the other was to make the code changes necessary and fix, I don't know if fix is the right word, but that are what we're calling town center. I'd like to take those one at a time. So with regard to the county, there were statements made on May 28th in the Elbert County News article that the emergency ordinance was centered mainly on concerns that Elbert County government might want to occupy more commercial properties in Kiowa. Then on May 30th, the Denver Sun article confirmed that the communications were now open and that there was a path forward that existed with the county. So to me, that negates point one of the ordinance. Moving on to the Main Street program, we've heard people talk that are on the Main Street board that it had nothing to do with them. They didn't know about it. They weren't structured enough to have that kind of a decision put on them. But that being said, the purpose of Main Street is to revitalize downtown, right? To create better businesses, small businesses, encourage tourism, etc. The ordinance directly contradicts the mission of the Main Street program. By allowing the ordinance to remain in force, commercial properties are being rendered worthless for their intended uses. Prohibiting issuance of new business licenses obstructs the sale or lease of any product of any property to new businesses, eliminating all economical beneficial uses of the commercial property. Now, whether or not you're in the position to sell or not sell, Patty Ann's isn't going anywhere. We've owned it for 8 years and we will continue regardless. But it could affect us. I mean, my children may not want to continue that, and none of us knows when that's gonna happen. There's also a matter, and I wanted to mention it. This could be viewed as a regulatory taking. What I mean by that is a regulatory taking is a situation where a municipality's regulations limit the legal use of a property to the point that the owners essentially. If you think of it as eminent domain, we were all upset with the whole Excel thing coming through. This could be viewed similarly to that. The only difference is you're not taking possession of the property, but you're limiting owner's use of it. The third thing, let's see. So as we talked last town meeting, we asked the town attorney if the Main Street program and the future strategic plan or whatever that they're building requires this ordinance. And Ms. Boone agreed that it does not require it. I also did some research into the 27 official Colorado Main Street programs or communities that are in place now. Not one of them put any kind of moratorium in place to affect their current businesses in the hope of creating new business. That just doesn't make sense from a business perspective to stop business so that you hope you have more business. So we local business owners, and I speak for myself, but I know that there's plenty of us behind me. We've approached the board last month, several work sessions, emails, what have you, and we've said, this is affecting our community, it's affecting our business people, it's affecting our customers coming in, they wanna know why it's happening. They wanna know why the town isn't more supportive of businesses. If our intent is to do the Main Street program and do more business, why would you not create an infrastructure that supports that now? So it's affecting, the communication is out. So as a business and property owner in town center, I once again ask the Board of Trustees to repeal ordinance 4, series 25 and restore the support for the property owner and the businesses and the residents that it serves. And with that, I will leave.
Yes, Ruth Warren would
Yes.
like to address the,
Regulatory taking?
yeah,
Yeah.
Fire away.
So what you really are talking about is downzoning property, and we have not downzoned the property by adopting this moratorium. And more importantly, this moratorium is authorized by the state law and has a long history in Colorado to
I'm
allow
aware.
local governments to adopt legislation to address emergent needs. So.
And I agree.
The downzoning and constitutional taking could potentially be an issue as we move on through the process, but it is not applicable here. And we will go to great lengths to ensure that the town is not liable or adopt something that results in downzoning or a taking.
And I agree, I appreciate that, thank you for sharing, however, in the purest definition. It is rendering a property unusable for its intended purposes and zoned purpose. And that is exactly what the moratorium does. Is it a stretch? Yes. Could we talk about it for years and never agree? Yes, it is. My point being is that it's not as cut and dry as we can do this, and so we will. There should be a little bit more consideration for the property owners that are impacted.
Well, I think the board will address some of those concerns this evening and moving forward.
Thank you, I appreciate your input, Ruth. Thank you.
Thanks, Annette. Sasha, who else do we have?
Joey?
Oh, I don't know, I can't do like she did, that was really good.
I just read well.
She reads well, she wrote that, and maybe spent weeks on it, it was awesome. Look, I'm gonna say it, and I've said it, and I've said it, and I've said it. I feel like my rights were violated when the daycare was turned down, I'm gonna be honest with you. I do, because I feel like I've had a building this sad, now we're looking at 2 years. This has cost me more than $150,000 to $200,000 for over 2 years. Look, do I love the idea of everything everybody wants to see happen in this town? Absolutely. We're not ready for it. Debbie's building could not be a cute little coffee shop right now like it could be or should be, because our drainage problem is so bad that old ladies can't get out of their car to go into the coffee shop. It just isn't feasible right now. It's kind of like when we brought in my opinion, the wolves in and said, hey, we're gonna bring wolves in here. That's great. Taxpayers shouldn't pay for it. They naturally come when the time is right. The time is not right for this town to have all this cool stuff. I do believe in the idea. I do believe in what you guys are, the goal. It'll come naturally. But I will tell you right now, had we done this and before, people like Prisms and Unbridled and Kellogg were in their buildings, those buildings would sit vacant. Because I will tell you right now, people that are starting coffee shops and little shops like that and bakeries and all these cool things could not afford to do what Unbridled and Kellogg and them did. They couldn't do it. It isn't feasible. Unless you've ran it, done it, or spent the money on it, you can't vote on it and say it can be done. It can't be done. If you guys vote on it and you guys decide to make the decision to not allow businesses to be open that are actually doable right now, we're gonna have more empty buildings soon. Older people that maybe die off and need to sell something can't. Some of those might stay vacant. That building that's sitting across from Just Peachy looks like hell right now. Okay, that building should not be sitting like that. You guys realize he bought that to put an office space in there. He can't. So now it's boarded up and I get to look at it. My customers that come to my building every day get to look at it. So we need to really think about, is this really smart right now? Maybe futuristic, I see it. I see the reasons for it. But it can't be done right now. It just can't. You guys gotta make a good decision based on what's good for people, and I'll tell you what. if it starts affecting me personally, which it already has some, but if it continues to, you guys might see, and I heard Ruth, what she said, this could mean a class action lawsuit in the future. I will tell you right now, there's enough pissed off owners of buildings and businesses. This, even if they lose, they might fight you. Do you want that for your town? Do you want it on the news? I'm just saying. Please think about what we're doing. Let's at least come to some good reasoning. Let's open up some more area that could be commercial further east. And maybe that's the way we run it. Maybe we do that. Maybe we don't take away rights of businesses and buildings that are already there. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Joey.
Debbie Owen.
Debbie?
So I just want to make it very clear that my property rights are violated. My building is zoned for professional offices. I sat through that meeting where we were told there would be exceptions. Global Propane sent a very nice letter to the town administration, and he was told there are no exceptions. I want to know why. Why was he told that? When we sat in a public meeting and were told there would be exceptions. Does anybody want to answer that?
I can answer that, Debbie. It's Ruth Bourne. I would think the board hasn't adopted a process or an exception to ordinance 4 to allow for any exceptions at this, as of today.
So, Ruth, are you saying that I just let the building sit empty so that you guys could maybe get $2,000 worth of sales tax? How about if I just donate $2,000 to the town so I can rent my building and save myself $50,000 for a year? It's a heck of a lot more important to my welfare than your town getting $2,000. I don't see how this is justifiable. And yes, I have talked to attorneys. I've talked to the Attorney General. Everyone has told us this is completely illegal. It is taking of property. Ruth, I have to respectfully disagree with what you told Annette. So I am asking you to repeal this ordinance. This is completely inaccurate way to get along with the citizens in town. And I would also like to point out that your workshops that you guys have held have been great. The town halls have been great, but I want you to look at who was there. 95% of the people there were business owners and property owners on Main Street, even at the Kimley Horn ones. You're not getting the citizens of the town. You're getting the people that are sitting in that room right there now. I ask you to please repeal this ordinance. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Debbie. Have anybody else?
Not unless somebody speaks up.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
I'm sorry, my name's Kim Bieber. And my husband and I are we're just residents of Kiowa. We're not in the town of Kiowa, but we have a Kiowa address.
Yeah.
So we don't get to really vote on anything in the town, but we do all of our business with every business, just about every business in this town, because we try to keep it local. So, nobody told us to go after any board members or anything. We're here tonight just because we wanted to hear what was going on. As far as, property taxes, we didn't even fight our property taxes because we felt it was fair. And we knew that the town that our county needed the money. And so, making a sales tax a little higher, totally understandable. But the problem is, and I don't know how this can be solved, is because we don't get to vote on stuff. the people that are voting don't want any change. They want it the way it's been for 100 years. They don't want to spend money in a boutique shop that is what you're looking for. They're not gonna spend $8 on or $15 on a coffee if a coffee shop goes in. There's been plenty of business situations that I've worked with to do a business in town, and it didn't work because when we did the homework on it, it was like, there's no way this town's gonna support it because people won't spend the money until we get more roofs in this area, you know, which people are fighting too. But, you know, if there's a way to expand, if you have a Kiowa address that you can vote on more things to do with this town or to raise taxes or whatever that is, then so be it. That would be a great thing to do, because then you've got more people that are actually spending money in this town or wanting to. And a lot of them, from where we are, go the back ways and they go into Elbert. So, because it's sometimes easier just to do that, but that's all. Thank you.
So under, Kim, just so you know, under our comp plan, that was one of the suggestions by the consultant company was to. They identified certain properties that butt up to the jurisdictional lines of Kiowa. And they suggested to start annexing in some of that, but that's just not an arbitrary decision the town can start
Sure.
making.
Sure,
And we'd have to work with the county on that because all of that's county
sure.
right now. So.
You know,
it's a
I
hard
think
situation.
perception, you know, perception is your reality. So when people like me who shop in town see things happening, seeing buildings not being occupied, and, you know, the first question is, well, why shoot yourself in the foot? Rent it out to a real estate agent or an office building. At least you have employees being hired or something that can then spend money at Patty Ann's or anywhere else. And because of the businesses, I know just because I had a business in Elizabeth, the businesses feel it just like the homeowners do. And so if you don't have some support from the town for businesses, then, you know, if all your businesses leave, then you really have nothing because the homeowners just go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. 11642.
Do you have anyone else?
I don't have anyone else online, anybody else in the room that wants to speak.
Can I just say something quickly? I won't take very much time. I just wanted to extend a part of grace to you all. I realize that this is hard. This is hard, and you're in a hard spot. And I have empathy and compassion for, as a business owner, you're trying to run a business here. And I completely understand that. That said, I don't think that everything that is lawful is right. And I think that this is a wrong way to go about it. I do think, though, that I can't speak for anyone in the room, but I would imagine that they would agree. My partner, my business partner, and I'm sure there are many behind me and many more who can't be here, who would get in this trench with you all and brainstorm and come up with ideas that could be helpful and other options, other ways to raise revenue, other ideas. I think it's good to treat the businesses who have come into Kiowa and invested, some of us a lot. To treat those people like they're valuable and that they're wanted and that they're appreciated and that our place in the community is helpful. I don't feel like that right now. But that being said, I love Kiowa. I love this town. I don't want to see this town die. I want to see it live. I want to see it thrive. So if there's something that I can do, I know there's not a place for me at this table, but if there's another table where there's a place for business owners who have good ideas to come and sit, count me in.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you all for your input. We will take things under advisement. And I would like to entertain a motion that we do schedule a special meeting to amend ordinance 4, series 2025 for an exception on a special review process.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion on it?
We need a date.
Oh, we need to schedule it today.
July 22nd.
Well, I was gonna make the motion and then we could discuss a date.
It's open.
July 22nd.
22nd,
It's a Tuesday.
Yeah, you can have that, can't have the 23rd. This planning's meeting on that one.
yeah, I can do the 22nd. Everybody else all right with July 22nd?
I'm available on the 22nd.
Permanent,
And 7 o'clock.
7, yeah. Yep.
Do you wish to amend your motion? To accept, he made the motion, to accept, July 22nd is the meeting
Yes,
at 7 p.m.
that's right.
You still second it?
Yep.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed? Okay. Do we have any other old business or anything we need to discuss?
No, we just need to talk about adjourning.
Motion to adjourn.
Don't everybody do it at once. All in favor?
I.
Opposed? Okay, we are adjourned at 10:01.